Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to my review on RWBY Vol.3, Chapter 11. Holy hell guys, we're now one episode away from the volume's end. But of course, we've gotta talk about this latest stop on this wild ride. So after last week where we had griffins, corrupted robot armies, former partners reuniting, and a freaking grim dragon, what did this second to last episode of the volume give us? Was it the newest highlight, or did it leave a sour note for the finale to follow? Remember, spoiler warnings for those who haven't seen the episode yet, and let's kick off looking into Chapter 11 of Volume 3, Humans and Monsters. Speaking of monster, we open on a big one, that massive dragon grim flying right past RWBY on that stolen Atlas ship, followed closely by a wave of griffins. In taking on one of these bad boys, RWBY's joined by Neo, who's now decloaking her disguise and sharing Torchwick a picture of their now familiar guest. We jump over now to Beacon, where Adam is giving his love some harsh words, calling her a coward for leaving the White Fang. The two do clash, but Blake gets easily overtaken. Yet it looks like Adam doesn't want Blake to die right now after he saves her from a creeper Grim. No, Adam wants his love to pay for her betrayal. Things aren't too good with the students either. While some are holding strong, the added numbers of the corrupted Atlas mechs alongside the Grim is starting to overtake them all, and they're getting knocked around bad. So Coco decides to make the call. It's time, folks. It's Velvet time. And it's all backed up by the first true use of the Volume 1 song, I May Fall, which is personally one of my favorites. So, what's inside the box? Blue light! Okay, it doesn't sound like much, but when teamed up with the pictures from Velvet's camera, and then suddenly the theories have rang true. Because it turns out that Velvet has been taking pictures of other people's weapons as she can summon copies of said weapons. RWBY's Crescent Rose, Weiss's Mightonaster, Yang's Ember Celica, Blake's Gamble Shroud, Coco's Minigun, Sun's Ryui and Jingu Bang's Staff Form, Nora's Magenhild, and even Penny's swords all get used by Miss Scarlatina to wreck one of the paladins, and she uses them all with very good skill. She is still an open target, and one of the other moving paladins takes to sending her packing, and it's still too much for even the gunners Coco, Neptune, Nadir and Reese to handle. So who's next up to the plate? Weiss Schnee, my friends, sliding on in to protect Velvet, and is supported by a familiar glyph. Yep, it's the summoning glyph, and unlike before when it was just a tiny sword sample, this time, Weiss has called upon the Swordom of the Night that she defeated in her trailer to slice down the mecha. A fair time to celebrate, but there's just one problem. There's another paladin coming in hot. I hear you, son. You guys just can't seem to catch a break right now. Back to the skies, RWBY's got her own issues now that Neo is joined by Roman, and the two are taking it to the young huntress. She's eventually knocked off the ship, but barely hangs on to the edge. It's here though that we get a hint to Roman's reasoning in working with Cinder, and like Adam, it's a sense of survival more than anything else. He knows that Cinder is a very viable threat, and wouldn't want to bet against her, so, in short, better to work with the devil than against her. He'll have to fight on alone though, as RWBY uses the time Torchwick spends monologuing to flip Neo's umbrella switch and send her away like Mary Poppins, though I'll suspect we'll see her again sometime soon. She may be short on her scythe, but RWBY is still just as determined as ever in stopping Torchwick and everyone else. Still, she is weaponless, and Roman won't stop trying to break her spirit, if not her body. However, the quick-witted criminal forgets one very important thing. Good or bad, the Grim won't care. You're still possible prey. Exampled here, when an Alpha Griffin drops down and swallows Torchwick whole. Can't see him escaping out of that one. Especially when RWBY spikes the Grim into the control room of the ship, sparking up explosions and the ship's descent. So it's time for RWBY to grab Crescent Rose and Pogo blast her way back down to solid ground. Down in the city, Glinda, Crow, and even Cardin are in their own fights with a mix of robots and Grimm, and much to Cardin's delight, his ass is staved by a still alive General Ironwood, who's finally revealed to not just have a metallic arm, but a full half of his body is actually mechanical. Ironwood's alive and pissed, clearing up the remaining former members of his army in the area, but as he thinks that the coast is clear, Crow gets pissed and pops out his scythe mode at long last, and it looks mighty sick, I might say. It looks more curved than RWBY's, and I kinda like that difference. Anyway, he's not aiming at James though, just the nearby Griffin. Even with their issues, he knows that Ironwood isn't to blame for all this. So it's time to make a plan. This place needs to be evacuated, so Glinda will keep this spot a safe spot for now, and Crow and Ironwood's remaining army members will go gather up the remaining huntsmen and huntresses, while James looks to reclaim his ship. Which shouldn't be too hard now that said ship is now trashed and landing into the ground. And with its destruction, it means the virus is no longer in the robotic forces. The knights and the paladins all stop, and the students breathe a sigh of relief. Just in time for Yang to arrive to get in the latest on RWBY and Blake from Weiss, with the two now looking for their respective partners. We now head lower down as Ozpin and Pyrrha as well as Jean have finally made it to the vault, and as expected, Jean's got no clue what's going on. But now's not the time for discussions. Ozpin sets up the pod and urges Pyrrha to make a decision, while Jean's placed his their defense. And as much as she's worried about the risk, and sad to possibly be departing with Jean, Pyrrha willingly steps inside. Meanwhile, Adam is furious and still clashing with Blake. To him, this moment should be the two of them sharing this revolution side by side, but this isn't what Blake wants. Adam wants to serve justice on mankind, but Blake's dream is for all kinds to find peace equally, something Adam just doesn't see as a possibility, absorbing Blake's shots and even slapping her across the face and kicking her weapon away. The creepy and cruel levels go off the charts as Adam makes it clear, even with wanting to punish the humans, he wants Blake, and she'll suffer for the pain that he says she's caused him, making it his mission in life to destroy everything she loves in the process. Bad timing then for Yang to appear looking for Blake, whose look of sheer fear at what may happen gives Adam the idea of his first target. Back in the vault, and Ozpin's ready, but wants Pyrrha's final voiced approval. Clearly not a fan of this action himself with the danger and all that, but this is the hand that they're dealt with right now, and the transfer begins, causing great pain to Pyrrha, which grabs John's attention and Ozpin's apology. Things are mighty tense right now, and it really pushes the envelope when Adam stabs Blake in the side to alert Yang's attention, fuming at the sight. But try as Blake might, she can't stop Yang from lunging in a rage, right into Adam's sheath sword move from back in the black trailer that severs off Yang's right hand. And to make matters worse, the aura transfer process gets cut off when Amber gets shot right in her chest, and Cinder's to blame. That final blow finally ends poor Amber's life, but with it, the remaining Four Maiden power is now set free, and returns to its other half, inside Cinder 4, who now has all of the Four Maidens' power. Jean, given credit, tries to stop her, but he's just no match for her right now, and before Pyrrha can try her luck, Ozpin stops her, telling Miss Nikos to leave with Jean and go get the other adults to get them back to the tower. Back in the school, and Adam looks to deal the final blow to Yang, but Blake, regardless of her own injuries, defends her partner from her old one. An act that Adam says just hurts him, so he looks to hurt back. If not for a clone, he would have done just that. But that distraction allows Blake some time to try and get away with Yang, though Adam slowly follows. Our final scene is back with the headmaster and the now fully charged Cinder, who supports some woman's comments about Ozpin's arrogance, as the final shot teases the clash of the beacon headmaster Ozpin and the new Four Maiden, Cinder 4. Sweet holy hell, I'm actually starting to feel glad that there's only one episode left, because I don't think I can take much more of this. But alas, let's now move on to my you know what, forget it. Right on to the positive section. What did I like about this episode? How about it being one of the most tense episodes in the series? This episode was slap dab in the middle of this large-scale battle, and it shows, with all sorts of fights going on with so much at stake, and a lot of risky and epic moments. It felt like 17 minutes that flew by, and yet I was still at the edge of my seat. The pacing was solid, the tone was grand, and each fight gave something to get nervous for and to get excited about. The episode was very kind in dropping some solid debuts for 4 notable elements: Velvet's weapon, Weiss's summoning, Ironwood's metallic additions, and Crow's scythe, with each being fittingly used and explored. It was great to see Crow's first showing of his scythe used to protect someone who we've seen he's had issues with, as it gave a firm sense of unity in this dark time between the two. Plus, seeing just how equipped Ironwood is gives new edge to the guy, seeing a man who's clearly been wounded and tested by the world, and it adds a bit more support to why he feels so passionate about making sure people are safe, even if it's not exactly the same path that everyone else has chosen, so less instances like his need for metallic parts is required. Then we got Weiss's summoning, which, while I'm very glad that she's able to do now, I like the fact that it wasn't the full knight that she brought out. That moment alone will be cool in itself, but with it being just the knight's sword, it showed Weiss's steel growing, while doing her best to protect people. It's a work in progress still, like a lot to do with her, and it's extra nice to see her used to protect a Faunus, a race that Weiss in the past might not have been so quick to rush to protect. Then we got the big one thing that I and many have wanted for a long time: Velvet's weapon, which, as many speculated, is indeed a case of copying other people's weapons for her own use. It fits her inspiration with the theme of the Velveteen Rabbit and it being given life through the love of its owner, only here it's using the weapons of her friends, and I love that this is her style, using the weapons of the other characters. It just seems extra pleasing given how Velvet became a bigger character through the fan appreciation, and now here she is, fighting off paladins like a badass with the same weapons that many of us love from the characters that we love, even fighting like them at some points, which was a really cool touch. Of course, not all that went down was fun and games. The fights, while brilliantly made, were also really freaking intense. The students one, I'm glad, showed off at points that they were all struggling and even got hit back hard. They were largely outnumbered, and most of them aren't as skilled with large-scale fights as an inexperienced huntsman, so seeing them push to their limits and seeing them tired and taking hits felt natural to the set piece. It also felt natural how RWBY's fight with Neo and Torchwick was scripted given the odds and the skill of her opponents. RWBY got her licks in, yeah, but she was still going up against 2 people, and one of them mopped the floor with her sister, the most combat strong of her group. So it made sense to see RWBY get manhandled and having to think smartly to try to tip the odds in her favour, like using her speed, using her recovery skills, and getting rid of Neo herself so she's just left with Torchwick. Plus, it worked into her character seeing her continuing to fight back against these odds. We know that she's a very brave gal, who even with being tested, will still keep on fighting, like the heroes that she idolized, and it made a great scene when she, even without a scythe, kept on going, and promised Torchwick that she wouldn't back down. It's so great to see her this strong, even with the experiences that she's been dealing with in this whole evening. Also, while it looks like it's the end for our time with Mr. Torchwick, he was delightfully charismatic as ever in what seems to be his farewell outing. Sad to see him go, if so, but he's definitely left his mark in the show. Though the standout scenario for me in terms of intensity and drama was with all things Adam related. Even with the equally tense things going on with the Full Maiden issue and the students fighting all the other Grimms and the robots, it was seeing this long-awaited reunion between Adam and Blake that made for a lot of this episode's strong points. Seeing how Blake tried to cope with her former partner and truly seeing what kind of person Adam is right now and how Blake's departure affected him made for a great watch. And it turns out, he's a very unsettling and brutal man. Well, more like the beast of his inspiration than a man. But still, he was outlandishly cruel to Blake, and he made it very clear that he wasn't gonna play nice, regardless of their past. All while calling her his love or darling, which definitely sends a sick chill down my spine. That's a real credit to the RWBY team, I gotta say, with making such a character that, even with this sort of badassness edge to him, still forms that reaction out of me. We may have lost the lively Roman, but Adam looks to be one hell of an interesting villain to take over his spot, making any future appearance one to look out for, as he tries to punish Blake some more. Such a ruthless, cold, and unforgiving man has added new venom to the bad guy roster that cements a lot of this current tone of the show. The next positive was definitely seeing what became of the incident with the Maiden powers. I won't lie, I thought we were going to see Pyrrha taking the powers and then either Cinder kills her to gain it for herself, or Jean manages to protect Pyrrha with his fully unlocked semblance. But I like that we didn't get the widely speculated path. It still ended up being a set piece that allowed for a lot of emotional edge to it in seeing Pyrrha's saddened look, and even Ozpin's pained expressions. It helped make it clear that he wants the kingdom to be saved, yeah, and the power away from the enemy, but he was sad to see it come to all this. But now we've got an even more powerful looking Cinder around. Pyrrha's still alive, and now with Jean, the two might make it out of this volume okay. And now Ozpin's finally gonna get some action himself, making for another painfully effective cliffhanger. For the voice acting praise of the episode, I could easily give it to Lindsay, Gray, or Aaron for their stellar work in this episode. But I gotta give credit where credit's due, and say it goes to Garrett Hunter as Adam, who I've admitted in the past I've been kinda split on with his performances. But man did he hit it gold in this episode. He was just perfect in how sickeningly dark he sounded for the chilling scenes that he was given, and I think he's come good now. Now, one quick bit of speculation before we go. That last little nugget from Cinder, she mentioned some woman that's clearly not a fan of Ozpin, and I think that may very well be the person that Cinder was talking to in that flashback episode, a higher up as it were. If so, then we know that she's a woman, and she has to be someone that knows enough about Ozpin to make such a claim. I'm calling it now. It's the woman that Jen Taylor, the voice of Halo's Cortana, provided in the prologue way back in episode 1. She was last heard doing the World of Remnants since its debut, but in this volume we've had Ozpin take over the narrator role. The two of them have shared the show's opening prologue, and we've yet to hear this other person's voice. So I'm willing to bet that the final episode will have some scene where we hear Jen's voice once more, and she's revealed as Cinder's boss. But we'll have to wait and see, because that's everything folks. Episode 11's in the bag, and we're only one episode away from the end of Volume 3. Ozpin vs Cinder, the students vs the Grimm, Blake and Yang vs Adam maybe. We got one last blast to end on folks, and I cannot wait. But what's your thoughts on this episode? Was it to your liking or was it not? Leave your feelings down below in the comments, like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter to keep up to date on things going on. Until next time, I'll see you all at the volume finale. Have a good day or good night, and peace out.